Hi friends, host Eric here, who's talking with people, and let's switch to being a two Mike Timmy from being a one Mike Wally. There, is that better? I don't know. Or is it worse? It's hard to say. It's a mystery wrapped inside of a Pikachu, stolen by an art thief and smuggled in the belly of a cruise ship. Yes, it's live stream time. And the reason I titled this video A Whole Lot of Used To, because it's something very depressing that my dad said yesterday. As I was driving him and my mom to the car dealership to pick up their car that was in the shop. Hello, Brittany. We were driving along this route that I used to take when I rode my bike to middle school. I rode my bicycle the same way that we drove to go to this car dealership, except at a certain point I would have turned up and I just continued straight on to go to the car dealership. But regardless, I said to him, I used to ride this route every morning in middle school on my bicycle getting up to school. And my dad said, yeah, your mom and I used to ride this route to the duplex in Monrovia back when we had that property. And then he paused and he said, it's a whole lot of used to. I was just like, oh, boom. That's an SI punch to the gut. It's an ESTJ punching you in the SI gut right there. The SIFI gut. It's like, that's where the existential terror comes from. That's the existential terror. It's like, whew, a whole lot of used to means not a lot more anything else. You know, moms, well, Brittany, I've discussed with you on a number of occasions what the difficulty here is, and you don't want to listen to me. Are you having an early midlife crisis? That's not the problem. Whatever that means, a midlife crisis. Am I having a midlife crisis? I've never not been like this. That's the thing. To imply that I'm having a midlife crisis would imply that there was a stretch of time between being childish and being adult-like, and now I'm returning to childishness or something. There's no adult-like period. I've always been nuts. So, for you, you did have an adult-like period, but that doesn't mean that this is a midlife crisis. It's more like a crisis of identity, you know? It boils down to internal family systems, probably. I don't know how well that would work for you. The reason I say that is because it works well for me, in large part because of my polar FI. And what I mean by that is I suffered from a lack of attention to my own feelings that caused me problems. And it still perhaps does. But internal family systems gave me a way to give voice to some emotions that otherwise were clamoring for attention in ways that weren't necessarily optimal. So I don't know if that would apply to anybody but a FI polar type, but it might. I'm not sure if one's parts are anything other than one's feelings, but they might be. I can't conceptualize what it would be like to approach those issues as another type. It's impossible for me to put myself to imagine being another type. I think it's impossible for anybody to imagine being another type. One thing I wanted to talk a little bit more about actually was this insane notion I keep coming across that you should work on your weaker functions. The thing is, there's no good to be done in working on your weaker functions, but it could also be said that internal family systems was me working on my weaker functions. The problem I guess I'm having with the expression or the notion is the verb work. If you are really working on your weaker functions, that means you're sort of intentionally trying to improve your relationship with that intentional manner. And that's what I think is insane, trying to intentionally improve your relationship with that intentional manner. What I do think is sane is being responsive to how one's behavior, actions, thoughts, feelings, and such are manifesting in real time, and keeping track of that and sort of having a record of how those manifest across time, and recognizing when something is a problem and having a criterion or multiple criteria to determine whether something's a problem, and then addressing the problem. It's like, if you're doing that and it really is function related, then that will address the issue. If you're not having a problem, then there's no reason to try to be different than you are, right? And the challenge for any problem in general is that, hi, Jen the INFP, chaotically minded. Smiley face to you too. I'm not actually going to smile. Okay, there, I smiled a little bit. But I'm giving you a metaphysical smiley face. So, yeah, the thing is, my optimal self is not a self that has spent time trying to develop his feelings. But my optimal self is a self who's successfully developed his feelings. But one never successfully develops in places by just having a general attitude of let's work on weaker functions. That just seems crazy to me, because it misunderstands what a function is. An intentional manner is one expression of your being, and what kind of being you are is basically determined by your dominant function and your tool function. So there's no point in trying to get better at what ISFPs are really good at. I want to be more successful in ISFP town. Why? You're not an ISFP. That's silly. Don't try to beat other people at their own natural game. It's silly. It also seems to me just to say you need to work on your weaker functions is to say, I'm not satisfied with the stack I have in some capacity. Maybe it's more improving, changing how you view yourself as a person through those functions. I realize I failed to create a view of myself who does things I find good about you. I mean, I would argue that one of the first things we have to do is come to terms with our relationship with dominant social norms and whether or not we want to embrace those and internalize them. So I think doing shit's important, but that doesn't mean it actually is. And it might seem like, well, obviously, Eric, doing shit's important. You got to do shit. You can't just sit around all the time. I'm not sure that's the case. It depends if you're able to financially, you can structure your life very leanly, or you could be lucky, you could do a little bit of work and somehow get really rich all of a sudden or something. Or you can be the dependent in a relationship. Those are all possible ways to avoid doing a lot of stuff. Why are they inherently bad? I don't see any problem with them. If the individual is feeling as though they need to achieve more, that they're wasting their potential, that they're letting their finite amount of time slip between their fingers and accomplishing nothing, I would point out, not that this is especially big deal, but there were large stretches of my life where I didn't accomplish much of anything and just played video games and drank, and that was it, and went to work and, did a half-ass job, and that was it. I didn't really feel like I started. Well, I felt there were two periods in my life when I felt like I was actually achieving things. And the first period was when I was on methamphetamine back in the early 2000s, like the year 2000, 2001. It was like 2004 or 2005, something like that. I accomplished a lot. It was the first time I had ever really done amphetamines on any kind of regular basis, and it was incredibly liberating. It's like, I can get all kinds of shit done. And I did. And other people would say, like, well, Eric, you were a meth addict. That's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know. I don't view it that way. I actually think it was one of the more important periods of my life, as far as learning things, as far as developing an aesthetic sense, as far as creating and putting shit out there and everything like that. It was an important part of my life. So I don't regret it at all. Anyway, the second period is when I got on amphetamines again, after I quit drinking and was on amphetamines and got fired from my job. I started this YouTube channel. Well, this is the second period of my life where I really feel like I'm getting shit accomplished. Now, note, prior to this period of my life, I was getting shit accomplished that most people would think is actually getting shit accomplished. I was a director of one of the biggest middle school programs in the country, one of the biggest and best. We got and I built it from the ground up with this lady who was good at marketing and who was the owner of the business. I had national champions. We had school of excellence, which, it's like there's over 100 schools go to that tournament, the national tournament, and there are only 3 overall schools of excellence, and there are 5 debate schools of excellence, and there are 5 speech schools of excellence. One year we got all 3, and usually we always got at least one. So, I mean, keep in mind, we're going up against schools from all over the country, private schools, everything, the best of the best. So that was a period of my life that gave me satisfaction at the time. Like, I walked around with a certain amount of swagger, obviously, when you're dealing with a lot of really, really fucking smart people and just going in there and slaying, you get a bit of a reputation. But I don't know. It's like, even though I feel good about my interfacing with children in general, I think I've done a lot of good in the world by teaching, because I'm an excellent teacher and I care about them learning shit more than I care about anything else. I mean, I care about winning in debate more than I care about anything else, but that requires me to care about them learning shit more than anything else. So I do think I've done a lot of good in the world with that. I feel proud of having been an educator for a long time, particularly once I started coaching. Classroom teaching, I feel mixed about, because I kind of feel like I was contributing to the problem. But coaching is a different matter entirely. Coaching's all good. And, I love it and everything, but I just don't feel like I'm achieving shit when I'm working in that capacity like I do when I'm working in this capacity. Because these actions are permanent. This live stream is not going anywhere. So that's important to me. Okay, now let me start reading the comments, the chats. I realize that nothing we ever do is good in the grand scheme of things. I went vegan for that reason, but it still can't avoid causing suffering. I realize I need to eschew perfection somewhat. Right. Well, you got to kind of find your juice. Figure out what the most important way to get it is. If your juice is, it's like, to me, Melandrix, that all sounds like you're battling to get to zero. I don't like to imagine life like that. It's all good. There are some bad things, and then you try to close your eyes and avoid those. I don't want to see that. I don't want to look at that depressing thing. I don't want to think about it. Yeah, that's it. I won't. Period. That's a good way to live. To feel those kind of negative feelings. Come on. Would you say depending on your polar, you're restricted from doing certain things? Well, you're not restricted, because that would imply that somebody's restricting you, but you're shitty at certain things for sure. Having a polar means everybody is super, super shitty at something. And so shitty at it that they're laughably incompetent at it. And the beautiful thing is everybody has one of these things. And there's no other correct way to describe it besides laughably incompetent. So incompetent they don't have, if they're like pre-Dunning-Kruger, it's not like they think they're good at it, like a Dunning-Kruger result would be, but they're so bad at it they don't even know what it is. Doing stuff is overrated. Actions too have the equivalent of a noise signal ratio. I'd be curious to hear you explain that a little bit more, but I would point out that, and this is probably something similar, all objects have a maintenance cost, and that maintenance cost is simply the cost of possessing it, putting it somewhere. This book has a maintenance cost. The maintenance cost is the space it's occupying right now, plus every time I have to move it, interact with it, store it, do anything with it. The object's payoff is every time it serves some sort of purpose for me. So you gotta measure those costs and benefits, right? With objects, physical objects. And I'm constantly trying to remind myself of that, because there's something fun about like going to yard sales and buying something stupid. I don't know. There's something fun about buying stupid shit sometimes. And so you accumulate a bunch of stupid shit. And then you go, well, now I got to do something with this thing again. What am I going to do with it now? Okay. Good morning, Annetta H. Johnny Two Guns. Your quadra values aid to your mindset on your take of sitting around or actually doing. Well, your quadra values reflect the values implicit to your native ways, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of ontological dialogue out in the world that a lot of people internalize. The example I often use is you shouldn't care so much what other people think, or you need to let go of the past. The first one is FI people attacking FE people, and the second one is NI people attacking SI people, and that's all it is to it. And it's like, the thing is, a lot of people are susceptible, depending on the nature of the person who's telling them something, to make a substantial effort to internalize that bullshit. It's like somebody I can totally picture Kimberly going to a therapist, the therapist telling her, you need to care less about what other people think, and her doing her best to try to do that because she wants to follow doctor's orders or whatever, and it's just fucking her up, It's so stupid. Sinjin, if those actions are not deliberately applied for a solid project. Hello, everyone. Hi, Walter. Good morning, Wiseman and everyone else. Good morning, Jen. Walter Wiseman says, yeah, this live stream is purposeless and the actions for it are overrated. The thing is about action, and this is what I think perhaps intuitives in general underestimate, and ESTPs understand better than anything else, is that a lot of times action in and of itself can be the determining factor, regardless of how poorly directed it is. Look at Trump. What does he do? He just does shit. And then he just kicks the ant pile, right? The ants all scurry around, and everyone's like, "Rah!" And just as the ants start to gather together to do something about it, he kicks the ant pile again, and from a different direction. And the ants are now what just happened? Forget about the last kick. We got this kick now to worry about. And now the ants are all squirming around again. And as soon as they start to gather together to get organized to do something, he kicks the anthill again. The point is that action in and of itself can be determinate. That's why it's linked with NI. NI is about what's determinate. What's the most important factor? What's the biggest weight in the round? What's the voter in the round, And SE is often the voter in the round by itself. Just because when action is taken, it upsets the existing board and it causes everybody to have to reset, especially intuitives. And I've had this experience in class with an ESTP where I would start explaining something and he'd throw out a question to change my directionality. Like I'd be partway through and he'd ask me what the meaning of a word was in the middle of something I'd explained. And then I have to explain that and I try to get back on. And I realized eventually he was just fucking with me, It didn't take me that long to realize it. We had battles, that ESTP and me. That's the power of extroverted sensing. It's the power to force everybody around you to reset. Hangovers do suck so bad. That's why I don't get drunk. Or I don't drink at all. I'm feeling somewhere between absolutely wasted and okay. What's your take on valued functions? What makes function valued? That's an incorrect term to use. There's a value matrix, and there are two kinds of values: instrumental and absolute. So each of the slots represents either an instrumental or an absolute value. Although I talk about distinguishing between them more carefully than that. But the dominant function is absolute. The tool function is instrumental. The third function is absolute. The fourth function is instrumental, absolute-ish. It's kind of absolute. Fifth function is absolute. Sixth is instrumental. Seventh is, I guess you'd call it absolute. And eighth is instrumental. So, but the thing is, when I get to the ones where I go, I guess you'd call it this. That's why I don't just say they're all absolute or instrumental, because some of them aren't really either. They're kind of something else. But the point is, it's a mistake to say that things are valued or unvalued. They're valued, each of the functions is valued in a different way. Like my sixth left function, which is my counter valued function, is also my demonstrative function. So I do value explaining to other people how to do shit. I like to do that a lot. I like to tell other people how to do things because I'm the one who knows how to do things, and I will tell you how to do things. But I don't like to actually apply how to do things in my own life at all. And I hate it when other people tell me how to do things. So is it a valued function or that's the problem with that term. My seventh slot, obviously I value my own feelings. When I'm experiencing them, I prioritize them often and say, I'm feeling bad, therefore someone's getting their head chopped off. That's kind of an absolute value. My feelings have to be off or else I'm not happy. They have to not be grabbing me. So let's see. Horny Nibba laundry basket. Horny Nibba laundry basket to you too. Is that a greeting in your country? Is that like aloha from where you are? What is SE polar and what problems could these people run into through their life? What to do to solve these problems? SE polar is simply it is the bare minimum of possible attention you can pay consciously, willfully, or even intentionally towards a given manner of attention. In this case, extroverted sensing would be the manner of attention that pulls the trigger and also follows through on decisions already decided and understood to be planned out. Depending on where it is in the stack, it will play out more as an impulsive, opportunistic function or more as a follow-through function, or more as a procrastination function. So if you're an INFP or an INTP, pulling the trigger on something is almost impossible. You must deliberate, because you got 1-8 deliberation. 8 is your unconscious tool function. So if you're deliberating the dominant function, be it TI or FI, then your 8 slot function is also deliberative. And so if you have a deliberative nature like that, then, and you have SE in the second slot like an ISTP, you're going to be very good at following through on what's already been decided. But if you're a dominant SE user, you're an action type. So fundamentally, you're going to be better at and more known for the pull the trigger end of things. If you're polar, it means you neither pull the trigger on things nor follow through on things. You don't like to commit to anything because you're going to have trouble following through on all the steps that are required. If you are going to do something, it needs to be a natural manifestation of your extroverted intuition, basically. So INTPs and INFPs do best when they're doing things that are ideational. That is to say, a YouTube channel is a very good thing for an INTP or an INFP to do, because it doesn't require them to follow through on anything. They can do it whenever they feel like it. It does allow them to do just their extroverted intuition. The only extroverted sensing part of it is just uploading the thing, typing in the title, putting in the tags, whatever. That's like the SE part of it, the following through on the doing the steps. It's the boring part. It's the stupid part. It's the part I don't like at all, but I do it anyway because it's an unconscious tool for me. Look a rat on the book. There's no rat on the book. That's not a rat. This is a human hand, a severed human hand. What types are any polar again? ISTP and ISFP. Based on what I've watched of your interviews with different types, I'm fairly confident you're any polar. Well, if you're any polar, then you're either an ISFP or an ISTP. And it depends on whether you got TI in the dominant slot or FI in the dominant slot. Either way, that would make you a deliberator. And it would mean that you don't like to, at any point, be put on the spot to suddenly make a decision or to suddenly come up with an answer or something like that. You want time to withdraw and deliberate and determine what the status of that thing is independently by yourself, and then come and say, here's my answer, or here's the thing. You just don't want to be compelled to improvise about anything. You want the opportunity to retreat, decide, and come back and provide an answer. Okay. Look a rat on the book. Look a rat on the book. Look a rat on the book. It seems there are a lot of INXPs here gathered here. Well, because this is what the kind of thing they do. This is ideational. It's like if you're an introvert and you want to engage ideationally and you're a deliberator, that means you don't want to play verbal patty cake necessarily. You want a bunch of stuff to be laid out here like this, and then you can type in to the chat your feelings about it or your thoughts about it, and know that you can push enter when you think it's ready to go and not be caught unawares, so to speak, in a conversation in some regard. So you get to control all of the externalization very carefully in this context. It makes the context very attractive to INXPs. Sensors are probably doing shit right now. This is Walter Wiseman. Yeah. This is doing shit, Walter. Come on. We're learning. We're loving, we're living, we're laughing. I'm going to smoke so much weed that's going to make me all okay. Okay, let's see. But Eric, you shouldn't do something if it's harming you. Is her caring of people so much to the point it's harming her? She wouldn't. She should lessen it or stop. Well, who are we talking about? Oh, you mean Kim? Um, no, I mean you can. There's another option there. You can meta up. You can recognize that what you're doing is your tool function, and that it's your nature to care about what other people think, but that you need to remember that it's your tool function. I mean, first of all, it's instrumental to her. She cares about what other people think for the purposes of her absolute values of doing shit and of being logically defensible in some sense. So it's not like it's absolute value for her anyway. She doesn't treat it as such. But if she's talking to a shrink and the shrink is hearing from her as she's using her tool function, both. But see, this is the problem with an FE tool user going to the shrink. Kimberly's very convincing about whatever her perceptions are. And so generally, shrinks are going to buy those perceptions. But they're also going to hear those perceptions phrased in terms of what other people think and what other people feel. And conclude that maybe you shouldn't use that modality, the tool function. Well, that's fucking wrong, you know? And like Jordan Peterson telling everybody, well, you should clean your room. You should clean the cum off your face, Jordan Peterson, because I'm done splooging on it now. Good morning, everyone. Let's see, I've lost my place. Oh, I'm way behind now. Good morning, everyone. I think of function developments in terms of increasing awareness, which seems to come along with the love of truth, though sometimes difficult ultimately. I agree that I do believe that metacognition about functions and about the self and that kind of stuff makes one a more optimal version of oneself. But I don't think that qualifies as working on your weaker functions, which is what people always say. 80% of our impact comes from 20% of our actions. Yeah, we can change that ratio, I think. I don't know if that applies to actions and impacts, but maybe. I would think about it more. We can react to that by doing more and more and hope to score more, or do less and focus on leverage. Oh yeah. Reset, bitches. See, that's an SE. Ola from the middle. Good morning from the East Coast. How do you separate ENFP and ESF? How do you separate ENFP and ESFP? I just don't know how. It's pretty easy. You can tell 8-slot NE from first slot NE. 8-slot NE is it's a lot less open-ended. So it closes out things in a way that extroverted intuition and dominant slot does not. An ENFP and an ENTP chatting will have this sort of almost explosive mix of extroverted intuition, and because theirs is mixed in with FI, so it makes it slightly explosive. But as long as you stay away from certain political topics and stuff, it can be quite difficult to tell us apart. Even like if you look at Sauce and I telling story back and forth to each other and making jokes and stuff, it'd be difficult to tell what type we are. Like, is he ENTP or ENFP, or which one's which? It's hard. It would be really hard to tell until we start getting into anything that's not purely creative, like analyzing something. But for purely creative endeavors, very difficult to tell apart. So that's what you want to do, is basically do a storytelling exercise with them. ESTPs will end the stories. ENFPs will toss it back probably. ESFPs will end the story, or ESFPs will be like, a bunch of it's like they really reveal that they're extroverted sensors in their attempts at extroverted intuition. It'll be a lot of sensory stuff, and I don't know. I can tell, but it's hard to articulate exactly how. Okay. Tony Robbins, what is he? I don't know what he is. You got banned from the shamanism forum today? Really? Did you practice some bad juju? Eric, why do you get so riled up when someone makes like a wrong TI point? You get really mad. You know, ENTPs are very, they have a lot of emotional display. It's really easy to read us. I noticed this hanging out with Becky, and I appreciate the fact that I'm hanging out with Becky a lot because I get to see what others must see in me to some extent sometimes and see what works. And I see her making the same fucking mistakes that I made. Like the way she titled that video the other day that she put up about the sash ceremony. It's exactly what I would have done a long time ago, but eventually it fucking been hammered out of me a bit that you got to think of titles and thumbnails as a separate contest from making a video. And it's its own thing that you're doing that you must succeed on its standards, not your own. So there's no reason to ever title shit for archival purposes. Like, this is what actually happens in this video, so I can remember. I can remember what's included in the video or something, or find it easily. You can put that shit in the description, fine. But the title and the thumbnail, they need to be NI. Like, I did an interview. I did a typing of ESTP. Taylor was there for a little while, and it's an hour plus long conversation. It covers a variety of different topics, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't cover the issue of being a conqueror at all, really. And I titled the video ESTP Conquer, and I made a badass looking thumbnail that I got from Google Images, you know. That's how you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to go, you know, the title of the video is host Eric interviews, you know, types guy, Taylor there too, ESTP. Yeah, like that's how I would normally think that one should title something like that, right? But that's a terrible title. So anyway, that's a thought I was having. That's something I was trying to explain to Becky because she's repeating history and being Eric and titling shit like Becky and Eric and Susie and Boss talk about the sash ceremony. Yes, that is what happens in the video, and that's also not a title. Let's see. SE is like an angel, NI is like a detective, or an agent. Those TI antennas turn into horns. How to get your ass in gear as an INFP? Well, you could stick a pineapple up your butt. That would probably motivate you to do something. I should shoot her for that. Who are you gonna shoot? Who's shooting who? Hold on here a second, War Primus. Nobody shooting nobody, all right? Yeah, sounds about right, says Jiong Yugi Yukui. Geo Nigi Yugi. Geo Nigi Yugi. That's what I called you, if you remember now. Geo Nigi Yugi. That's a cool name. Geo Nigi Yugi. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I figured it out. It's because we all expect people to be good at our second function. Yeah, it's true. But because you have that bipolar, you can't understand that other people won't be good at TI. Yeah, because I can't conceive of, look, to the extent that you're able to deliberate at all, you should be able to clearly get this, because there's only one kind of deliberation after all, and it's my kind of tool function deliberation. Yeah, it's a good point there, Mad Biscuit. You did figure it out. And it's a good way of putting it, because community, man. Maybe I should make a channel. Yeah, you should. I have a lot of advice for spiritual folks who make a lot of mistakes, so that's good. You absolutely should make a channel. My biggest advice to any INTP or INFP, the simplest advice I can give, and the actual practical, actionable advice is make a YouTube channel. And the reason for it is because your tool function is extroverted intuition. And what am I doing right now? And what does everybody do on YouTube channels? And when you're a guy sitting at home and talking into a camera, well, what the fuck are you doing? You're extrovertedly intuiting. Bro. Bod123, I want to credit you right off the bat before I read any further for beginning your address with bro. Bro. How do you avoid psychosis if you can tell you're going to have it? I got no idea. I'd have to know what it would mean to know that you're going to have it, to tell that you're going to have it. And if you can tell you're going to have it, then either you're wrong or it's unpreventable. See? You kind of put yourself in a double bind there, TI wise. Annetta H. I'm kind of shy. I might though. Gotta make a list of some mistakes, traps to avoid on the path. No, you don't. No, you don't. Stop deliberating. You have to allow yourself to make those mistakes and adjust as you move along. You've got to be okay with being human and other people seeing that. That's what you got to do. And put up a bunch of videos. Don't worry about them being good. Don't worry about them being perfect. Don't worry about them being well titled even or things like that. Just allow yourself to express yourself through your tool function, which will be very easy for you, as a way of creating positive, good, lasting, meaningful, valued impacts in your third slot function, which is SI. You want to build a bank of experiences that define who you are and that you can look back on and see growth from, and yada, yada, yada. Don't deny your future self the opportunity of seeing the actual authentic you of the moment, because you're only doing yourself a disservice. You want to accomplish it in that third slot SI thing. What better way to do that than to archive your use of your tool function here on YouTube? Exactly what I'm doing. I'm archiving the use of my tool function, TI, right now, and parsing out all these questions and answers and stuff. Of course, there's plenty of NE in the mix too. NE and TI together, either way, INTP, ENTP, we think a lot alike. INFP, I guess, thinks a lot like ENFP, but I think INFP is the most diverse group within a type. You'll get some very strong TI out of some INFPs. You'll get more or less strong TE out of them in the fourth slot. Because they're so particularist with FI and SI on the front of the stack, they have the widest range of displays. Bod123. Do you think FI listening to music is different from FE listening to music? I mean, I think everybody engages emotionally with music with their own feelings. It's true, but yes, it's true. Like, there's this, if you're listening to certain kind of like rap that's very self-aggrandizing, and you're sort of like getting up, like putting yourself in the point of view of the rapper, then that might be considered FE juice from the music, as opposed to FI. By and large, I think most people resonate with it. Even then, it's kind of an FI sense of satisfaction in FE or whatever. By and large, you got multiple values being activated by music. For me, music's primarily a way of experiencing my extroverted intuition in conjunction with my introverted intuition, in conjunction with my introverted feelings, in conjunction with my introverted sensing. And there's basically nothing else. There's SE in the doing of it. But here's the thing. I don't really enjoy playing music that much. So I have all these songs, hundreds of them, and a lot of really good ones. A lot of good ones that I go back and go, oh, I forgot about that song. That's a really good song. I don't really know how to play any of them. I mean, maybe 10 or 12 of them, and I don't play them very often because every time I pick up the guitar, I'm making something new. And this is an indication of how SE is not really a part of the pleasure I get out of music. I do enjoy working on music somewhat. It has a lot of SE follow through on the thing and that, but there's a lot of trial and error for me. So I don't know what to say about that, but it is basically just those four functions, any, NI, SI, FI for me, that I think I value music through and because of. Although I like to dance sometimes too. So that's SE. That's definitely SE. Dancing. FE, I like being cool. I like to express FE awareness in my music. Whether I'm successful at that, I'm not sure. But because I'm an SI type, I'm just necessarily less clear on that than an NI type would be. An NI type, like an INFJ, is going to know for sure how their shit plays all the time. An ENTP is going to know for sure how it resonates with their experience over time and gradually come to understand how it plays. It's I don't know. It's an interesting question. I'm way behind here, I think. Gag. What are you gagging on, Annetta? R.I.P. Blowtorch. That's why I picked it up. I don't know R.I.P. Blowtorch. What type? Oh yeah, well, that's true. That's true, Bod123. FE listening to music makes you want to bump up the speakers and make everyone hear what you're listening to. Okay, yeah, that's FE listening to music. FI just listen with headphones. Okay, great distinction. Eric, what type do you think ESFP or INTJ I am? Having trouble figuring it out. I don't know, Mad Biscuit. You don't seem like an ESFP. I've engaged with you often enough to tell you that it seems not consistent with my experience, but I don't know how convincing that is of anything. I'm scrolling. I'm a-coming. I'm way behind. Sorry. Wow, I'm way behind. How long is the delay? If you would want enthusiastic, empowering emotions. I don't care who you are. I don't want to hear your music on the bus. Well, that's true. You don't want to hear it on the bus, but ideally you don't want to take the bus at all. Johnny, UDK what you're talking about. UDK what I'm talking about. And UDK what she's talking about. Now that guy over there, you UK what he's talking about. If I would listen to music in relation to how they are feeling. Or I don't find it that way. I find the music determines how I'm feeling. If someone hears music loud, I instantly use headphones, you prick. Yeah, I know. I mean, when you got FE, you want other people to hear the music. Yes, I agree with you, Bod123. You don't always make others listen to it. You also have FE means you're aware of the implications of that. So there's certain contexts where you can sort of get away with it at a certain volume level and actually maybe even pull it off and convince people that you're cool because you're listening to such cool music or something. Well, Johnny Two Guns, he's not saying that. Bod123 is not saying just blare the shit out of it. He's saying that would be an FE impulse. I want others to hear what I'm listening to, and he's correct in that. You should clean the cum off your face, Jordan Peterson. Ha ha ha. Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that somebody appreciates that joke. Music for FI is a good way to analyze the feelings. That's an interesting topic about music, though. I think SI types can be more nostalgic about music. I'm very nostalgic about music. I like stuff that I listened to a long ass time ago. I listen to still, and only the best of it, though. Could someone be able to take a broken electronic device and troubleshoot what's visibly there with trial and error and be successful with polar TE? I mean, I guess it would depend on how powerful the motivation is for the person to persist at that. But Kimberly I told Kimberly that she has this desk, okay? It's this big, like, gray desk thing. And it's IKEA, and it's shittily made. And it was just basically held together by dowels. And it was already falling apart. And I was telling her, we've got to throw this thing away. And she said, no, I'm going to fix it. She proceeded to fix it. When I went in there, it was completely taken apart into all pieces. She had made no progress at all. She had just broken some of the dowels and was still saying she was going to fix it. I don't even consider there to be a 1% possible chance that she's actually going to fix something when she tells me she's going to fix it. That's her way of saying, I'm going to break this until you fix it, Eric. So, no, I don't think so. Like tasting them, having a good meal. Tasting your feelings? They taste salty like moisture. Without FI, music would be trash for me anyway. The delay is too long. Shut up, Bud123. Your face is too long. Nah, Bod, he just hasn't scrolled down. Lol. Well, that's what the delay is, he's saying. He's saying there's a delay between him typing shit and me scrolling down. Come on, Milan, just get it together. I have double delay internet connection and neural connection this morning. Because he's giving long answers. I can't listen to him and focus on the chat. We'll have to watch this later. Let's just keep discussing things here at Rapid Fire and get him miles behind. No, that's not a good idea, Johnny Two Guns. Walter Wiseman, haha, don't laugh at his bad idea. Jonathan Campbell, I think Tony Robbins is an ENTJ. Well, he might be, I don't know. I have not ever really thought about that guy. It's nice he's giving answers on the upside. I always give answers. It's not like it's unusual for me. It depends. Sometimes there's too much good, juicy topic stuff that I got to really get into a little bit. And, my NI has to kick in and go, okay, come on, Eric, move it. It helps when people like, what's his face? 123 tells me to hurry the fuck up, which basically did. Okay. Chat now, watch later. If you could live in any ideal fantasy world or life, what would that be? What's your type? Well, I'm living the dream right now, frankly. I wouldn't want to have anything else. Right now, I still have in my future being president. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, I know. I tried explaining that there is a sophistication in death. This guy had a black and white view on his culture, so I got a bit sarcastic after he made assumptions. Uh-oh. Sarcasm. It was a toxic forum, and a lot of people were being treated poorly, and it spurred my INFP nature. Ugh, archival titles, yeah. Jesus, Eric's so far behind. Yeah, I will put it on 2x speeder later and go through it. Good method in case of wanting both. It'd probably motivate me to get my butt stitched back up. Mean. What's mean? Ideating with NE. No, the pineapple joke is mean, says Annetta. Well, Annetta, the only reason you think it's mean is because you actually did it. And so, yeah, that pain in your rectum. I mean, if I had known you were going to actually shove a pineapple up your butt, I wouldn't have told you to do it. Which type will clash most with ISTP out of INFJ or INTJ? INTJ. It's pineapple apple pin. Eric, what do you think would be potential points of friction in a discussion debate between INTP and ISTJ? Stuff like what would be annoying to the other person, etc. Well, ISTJ is likely to make some sort of stupid-ass, indefensible claim about diet, for example. They go, well, ever since I've started eating sunflower seeds, it's really helped me to have a lot more energy, and I'm having a lot less bowel problems, and blah, 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 blah. And then INTP is going to go, that doesn't make any sense. Sunflower seeds don't do that. Look at the studies, blah, blah, blah. But ICJ is like, my experience is everything. My experience tells me that this works because I tried this and things have been a little bit better since then, and I attribute it. And I don't take into account any kind of placebo effect or anything. So I'm saying a bunch of crazy nonsense. And IHP will go, you're saying a bunch of crazy nonsense. That's good advice. I'm full of good advice, Walter. I am full of it. Shove a pineapple up your butt. That's good advice. I think INTJ Catherine. What's your type, Walter? He's, I forget. I feel like whenever Eric gets in hardcore TI mode, the chat devolves in, "Hey everyone." Great advice. I'm full of great advice, Annetta. This next time, get a pomegranate. It's a little easier than a pineapple. What are socionics? Have you looked into that system? Sure, I've looked into it. What are your top 3 MBTI types? I don't really have a favorite types. I typically don't get along with ENFJs especially well. But there are exceptions. And, obviously I like ISFJs. They're my duals. My oldest friend is an ISFJ, and my woman's an ISFJ. My mom was an ISFJ. I like ESTJs more than most people like ESTJs because my dad was one, and still is one, and I have another friend who's an ESTJ. I don't mind the SI. I guess it's because I'm SI seeking, And I had a lot of SI in my house as a kid. Dominant SI and dual function SI. But I wouldn't call them my favorite types. I mean, I like hanging out with Becky a lot. She's an ENTP. I like hanging out with Susie. She's an INTP. I like hanging out with Taylor. He's a ESTP. I love my daughter a lot. She's an ESTP. We don't hang out that much anymore, but when we do, we always have a great time. We're really close. I have an extremely deep emotional bond with my ESTP daughter. Between us, there's not a goddamn bit of introverted feeling, frankly. But we're both very emotional, nevertheless. She and I make each other cry all the time, just with sort of like, it's nice to feel strongly about you. It's nice to feel strongly about you too. Yeah, I think that's why I had some trouble between INTP or INFP. I thought 8th slot function was pretty weak, and that my TI was better than that, so it's also not good enough. But it's also not good enough for 1st slot. Yeah, well, that's what makes INFPs very tricky to type. Is sometimes I'll be leaning INTP for quite some time until I realize that they only do it when presented with it, like, here, do this TI question. INFPs will often have no problem with it at all, and even display maybe like, wow, they're really good at this. But they don't do it when they're not presented with a problem. That's the thing. And so you got to pay attention to how they're talking and ideating, and they're not doing TI problems to figure out whether they're TI or FI. Okay. INFJ and ISTP share the same functions. Yeah, so they should get along better, and they're not a bad match, frankly. It's like the same thing as ESFJ and ENTP, which was my ex-wife. Pretty good match. It was her NI polar that killed it, frankly, because she never seemed to understand that something had to be determinate in something. That it's like, if she's going to present me with, she can't constantly move the goalposts. That's kind of what NI polar does. Is constantly, it doesn't think that there's ever any attainment or conclusion or finality to any set. Sets don't ever close. How can I tell an ISFJ from an ISTP? I mean, that should be easy squeezy. ISTP's got 4th slot FE. They've got polar NE. I mean, you can do the polar NE test. ISFJ will test negative for NE, no problem. Like, they're not going to display that they are great at it, but they're going to definitely test negative for polar NE. So the other thing is, ISFJs will give you shit tons of past examples for everything. If asked to give any, if they wait for the person to make a simple statement that's basically an NI statement, like I like cheese or I like people, I like people who are nice, and ask them, can you give me some examples? ISFJ is nothing but examples, basically, and then each of those examples they'll more or less present as a general rule. So if they've got a recent example of enjoying a time at the park with Steve and Mary, then their narrative is, I like going to the park with Steve and Mary. So if you can ask them, well, can you give me an example? They'll have one right at hand, because that's what they really mean, is they mean to tell you the example, but they've learned because of FP and other things that you present things in kind of this NI way. Their NI serves their SI. Okay. So you guys are nice. I like this community. People here act normal and not arrogant. It's just really chill. No bad vibes at all. Righteous Annetta H. I appreciate that. The bad vibes are, I say those for the second half of the live stream. That's when I start attacking everybody's ontology, telling them how inferior they are and stuff like that. You can just turn it off before we get to that part, though. That's, like I said, that's the second half of the live stream only that I do that typically. Okay. ISFJ and ISTP are nothing alike, Catherine. Totally agree, Annetta. Annetta, arrow up, smiley face. Alice Marie, SE is dancing. Interesting. I think so. That's why I'm not very good at it. It's that's an instance where I got to willfully and intentionally apply SE in a way that is not natural for me at all. So that's why it doesn't. It's not conscious. So I'm not really. All my dancing is unconscious or SI or something. I don't know. I can't even talk about it. I have a lot of trouble discussing what SE is, I've noticed, as an intentional manner when referring to myself, just as I do with FI. So it's difficult for a person, I think. Those are the two most unconscious functions, maybe, are 7 and 8. Here, less FE meshes laid out, and the main course of the host here is to clear things up. Thanks, Walter. Hi, everyone. JL says, hi, JL. Oh, okay, I can see that, Alice. Thank you, says Catherine Fisher. Melandrix, oh shit, we should make a TWFP Discord. Geo Niggy Yugi says, dude, that would be a good idea. I've suggested somebody else, people keep suggesting it. I say, I think just do it or something, or somebody already did it maybe, or I don't know. I don't even know what that is exactly. Discord. I know is it like chat servers or something? Took a little SE action. Oh, there's Discord. What cognitive function is social anxiety? It's not a cognitive function, I don't think, but I think social anxiety is going to most likely affect somebody whose FE is on the backside, and probably would affect, I don't know. I think it's mostly a response to environment. How affirming is the environment to your basic ontology? So this is funnier to hear the second time. And you see the smiling and the tears and the half moon eyes. None but maybe fur. Fee. Taking action. I'm making fun of my shit. SE. JD. Eric, your channel is absolutely crazy. It's like a hoarder's room. So much of everything in no seemingly order. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just not what I'm used to. Look, I mean, I have tried to organize it. It's hard to organize because you never really know when you're doing things whether or not they're going to be an example of a set. And so I end up with playlists for things that have like one or two things in it only, and it didn't turn out to be a set, If I ever try to fix an electrical device, it's because 1, I'm on a desert island, 2, and a desert island that does have outlets, though. It has outlets. The desert part and the island part notwithstanding, there is electricity. I know someone will stop me before something disastrous happens. I appreciate you saying so. Clockwork Paradise, you're still digging up and finding gold. There's a lot of videos. You also find a lot of wrongness, too, in the past videos. So I probably said my wrongness with a lot more authority in the past, and then I even say my rightness now, because that's part of being wrong, I guess. Oh, jeez. I have to poop here before too long. I can feel it gathering momentum in my butt. You're IEI? No, he's INFJ. Okay, we don't use socionics words around here. Otherwise, you're going to have to go to the shaman community. You have forced participation in the shaman community. You don't want that, do you? There must be an actual video out there of somebody attempting to show pineapple. I don't want to see it. Don't share it, please. Don't. Let's not even discuss that possibility. That's awful. It's funny as a joke. But I hope nobody would ever try to do that, because it would be I just wouldn't want any part of that. Geo Niggy Yugi, did you actually do it? Did you shove the pineapple up your butt? I hope it was a very small pineapple. Good morning, Sheila. Good morning, Sheila. Good morning, Sheila. Okay, what a wonderful time to be joining. Your thoughts on the laws of human nature from Robert Greene. Is that Laws of Power? I haven't read the book. Taylor's really into it. It seems to be something that ESTPs like. SI is unbearable. Nuh-uh. I think FI downs are pretty easy to spot. Yeah, you're unbearable, Johnny. Yeah, Johnny. Yeah, let's have to avoid all mirrors. She didn't say you were unattractive. She said you were unbearable. That could mean you're simply heavy and she's unable to bear your weight. Or that she's weak and she can bear very little weight indeed. Don't draw conclusions. It's because Eric is a hoarder of ideas, and he kind of. I mean, the thing is, the problem with Innie is that it's not a hoarder of ideas typically. That your extroverted intuition dissipates out into the world, into thin air, talking, and that's it, and it's gone. But the modern world affords the extroverted intuitor a chance to get more SI satisfaction out of his random chatting than he otherwise would be able to in the past. So in that capacity, it's smart to take advantage of it. How does NI manifest in an everyday situation? It depends what it's paired with. But it's probably easier to say how it manifests when it's gone, when it's absent. When it's absent, it manifests as selling your car for gas money. It's a failure to recognize what's determinant in the question. A chat room would be awesome. I spend too much time alone and need to make some friends. Well, Annette H., you're in the right place. We've got a lot of intuitive introverts who say basically the same thing. Keep in mind, there's also a video group chat that you can go to anytime. It's open 24/7. Not always people in there, but since it ceased to be a room that automatically recorded and uploaded to a channel because YouTube killed the channel because of content or copyright things, because it's not a long story. If you go there, there's often people in there chatting about whatever. Susie goes there, Taylor goes there, Abraham, Becky. Good place to make friends. And, as TWFP friends, we typically do meet up at some point. Is a possibility. Like, I travel around to meet people, and people were coming to my house in June. I got like 5 or 6 or something of them. Jojo Shabadi said she's going to drive up from San Diego. So we'll have in future years, not in years, but like in less than a year, we'll have another situation, another similar thing, and we'll set it up more for a larger number of people to come where if they want. Of course, they have to stay in a hotel or something because we have a finite amount of space here at the house. But that'll happen in not a super long time if you feel like traveling or if you happen to live in Los Angeles where I live. Kimberly's and I both enjoy the social aspects of the channel a lot. I'd say I think it's fair to say it's incredibly rewarding for Kimberly, more so than she even realized. And that she loves the way that it allows her to be more socially engaged and to have more friends herself. Like her friends and my friends both are basically all channel people now. We don't really have other friends. I have one other friend really that I talk to or hang out with, and that's Dave, my oldest friend, my ISFJ friend. I mean, I have connections in real life, but I mean, once you've reached adulthood, it's really hard to hang out and socialize like you did when you're a teenager or something. Except it's not if you're doing this. This is why the YouTube channel and the Raw Room in particular really changed my life, was because once the Raw Room started getting rolling, it had people there 24/7. There was always someone to hang out with. At any given moment, I could hang out with somebody without leaving the house, without any time commitment. I could just go in there and see people and talk and chat. And I could record it if I wanted to or not. And yeah. So, okay, where am I? You're into typology, and Discord is pretty easy to use. I bet you pick it up pretty quickly, Eric. I mean, I don't really have a lot of time for another platform. I think everybody here is into typology. Yeah, but for some people, it's actually typing like on an old typewriter that they're into, and they're just confused. Should hypergamy motivate me? What's hypergamy? I think I asked this question before, and somebody explained it to me. Oh, is it that thing about women going for status, trying to mate up in status? Electricity. Oh, electricity. We shouldn't get too moist then from now on. They shame you there. Oh, people get shamed occasionally around here too, but it's only if they do something really stupid. Do you think a lot of those people on those hoarder shows are SE doms? My hubby is slowly filling our pole barns with crap. People drive by something on the street and bring it home. I'm sure it's not an ESFP. Fry the soft wiring and only go hardcore. I heard about that. The lady was off her rocker. That would be awesome. I grew out of some old friend after starting self-development and need a new crew. Yeah. Hello, Eric. How's it going, mate? I'm concerned, British man. It's going fine. Is it an NI thing to make grand plans but neglect details and fail due to being impractical? Maybe. Hoarding has something to do with attachment to value outside of self. It could be vital and weak so the person can't see it. That's some... I mean, I would say hoarding has more to do with SI than anything else. So SI people get very attached to their objects, SI doms. Whether or not that turns into hoardiness or not is another question. Because like Kimberly also has a tool function FE, so it's critical that it never look like we're hoarding anything. And so she's constantly trying to find places for things and or get rid of things. We have this ongoing dynamic relationship with our objects and our organization scheme around here. It's just continual. It's never going to end. We're always trying to reorganize and always trying to re-clean things differently. It's just life with an SI dom and an SI seeking person. And sometimes when you grow up with childhood friends grow in different ways and want to do different things, and that is hard. Actually, I've been thinking of going to law. I'm not sure if it'd suit me, though, if that makes sense. I don't know if it would suit you as a permanent place to live or not, but everybody seems to enjoy visiting here if they've not been here before. There's lots of shit to do. We've got, right now, it's the end of May, right? We could go skiing at Big Bear right now because it just fucking snowed, which is crazy. This is a crazy winter. We've had the craziest winter in my entire life of living in Southern California, weather-wise. We've had so much rain, lightning storms, snow, hail, just fucking everything. And so this summer, for example, the freshwater fishing in the mountains locally is going to be great. We could go skiing. Like right now, you could go skiing in the morning at Big Bear, and then go down to Big Bear Lake and go fishing in the afternoon for trout. So that's pretty cool. Mammoth just got a foot of snow. Mammoth is going to have skiing through July 4th at least, which is also crazy. It used to be like that when I was a kid sometimes. So it's a great place. We can go pier fishing. The plans of things I'm going to do with the group this time include pier fishing. If anybody wants to go down to the beach and go pier fishing, also I was thinking we could do bowling karaoke. There's lots of LA sites and things to see, like, Griffith Park or whatever. People want to go to fucking Six Flags, which I think is stupid. I hate Six Flags. It's just like, I know. What I got a great idea for today. I want to go spend a shit ton of money to be uncomfortable and wait in line to get jostled. And then buy really overpriced food. Be the best ever. Fucking hate amusement parks. I just will not go to them. I refuse to go. I don't care how much people from out of town want to go to some amusement park. I refuse to go. No, I will not go to Disneyland. I will not go to Six Flags. I will not go to... I would go to Knott's Berry Farm. MIL goes and collects people's garbage put out for collection, brings home stuff and stores it in a spare room. What's MIL? Mother-in-law? I like the desert, very relaxing, the canyons, mountains, etc. The Southwest is amazingly beautiful places, like New Mexico, cute girls too. LA is there's access to all those sort of. It's got desert, it's got mountains, it's got beach, it's got fancy shit like Philharmonic. I've gone to the LA Phil recently because I got these two clients who play in the Philharmonic. That was kind of interesting. Oh, you saw that thing? Oh, you saw that video where I was not going to Six Flags? Well, I mean, I can tell you that if the condition is Susie agreeing to show her boobs to the camera on the roller coaster, there's zero chance I'm going to Six Flags. That's a condition I know will never be met. I can safely make that my condition and claim that I'm not saying it's impossible to get me to go. I'm just saying you didn't do the thing you needed to do. So this isn't my bong. I'm trying to smoke my cup of coffee. Oh, that would have been bad. Everybody just burned a hole in it, and then female NHP, you have a 10-year Disneyland free spree? Because in 2013, 2009 for Make-A-Wish. Were you wishing? Or were you helping somebody else's wish be fulfilled? Rides make me sick, go puke. You and I should get on the ride together, on the teacups together, Sheila, and we'll sit on either side of the teacup, and we'll be like a vomit sprinkler as it spins around just both of our mouths. Somebody else puked on me at a roller coaster once. Oh my God, that must have been fucking disgusting. Oh, you had cancer? Go drive by some beautiful mountains on the way to Six Flags, ignore the beauty, and go vomit on a roller coaster. That seems at odds with logic. Here I am, I'm with you. I am with you. I have an ISTP friend who loves Disney World. You know, in a way, it doesn't matter sometimes where you are as long as the people you're with are cool. Well, I'm glad you're just kidding, Brittany. Well, sometimes it doesn't matter, but if I'm on a boat, for example, like last time I went deep sea fishing, I was so miserable for the entire day lying on that boat, unable to fish, unable to do anything except puke or lie down and go, oh. It was super choppy. I just swore I'd never get on a boat again. Never. It doesn't matter how cool the people were. I would not get on a boat again like that. Alice Marie, what are you talking about? Was this? Oh yeah, it was disgusting, but I felt bad for them a little bit because they were so embarrassed and scared looking. How far am I from San Francisco? It's about 8 hours. It's a drivable drive, but you know, I used to go to school in UC Santa Cruz, which is south of San Francisco by about 45 minutes or an hour, and I made that drive a bunch of times, back and forth. But San Francisco, if there's really not very many dangerous places in California. Any place you go, you're gonna be safe. There's not gonna be any crime. You're gonna be fine, and you know it's a civilized place. The exception is San Francisco and Oakland. You don't, especially San Francisco. You will get robbed in San Francisco. Why? Well, because criminals don't deserve punishment. They deserve rehabilitation, and homeless people have rights, and we need to respect their right to destroy the public place for everybody else and all that shit. So that's why San Francisco is not a safe place. I will be high right now in a second for a minute. California in general has homeless problems, but they're dealt with differently in different places. And some places are more successful at dealing with them than others. Well, there may have been a failure to solve these problems from the ground up, but Sheila's got the best solution of all. I live someplace where homeless people can't be because it gets to minus 50. Now we have no homeless people. Remarkable. What about in the summer? Well, you know, we get a couple maybe drive in, but they leave when it starts getting cold. You can't sleep outside when it's minus 50. It's a great solution. Move someplace where it gets super fucking cold. You won't have to deal with any homeless people. Can you have FI if you believe criminals should get punished? Sure. Not all FI DOMs don't believe in punishment for criminals, but I would say that most FI DOMs would, at the very least, consider whether or not it's doing any good to punish the person. I would say in general, FI DOMs don't care about justice as an outcome in and of itself. For example, if you killed my brother, most FI DOMs are not going to consider my family my family's need for vengeance as legitimate consideration in adjudicating justice. Okay, so I haven't been to Olympia. What is it like? There's bad opium problems there too. Many normal people got addicted or are now homeless. The regular Joes working 9 to 5, and the farmers there are addicts living low life lives. It's sad. Maybe if I had a real bong, I'd quit coughing so bad. Makeshift Gatorade bottle and foil bowl and straw, coughing galore. It could, probably the weed, but it could be the bong. No, do not send us a puppy. Fuck no. You appear to be missing the people part of homeless people. Can't quite tell if you're joking though. I'm not joking. I understand that homeless people are people. I'm not saying we should round them up and kill them or something like that. I'm saying if you really have, it is a problem. The fact that somebody does not have a home and occupies the public space in a fashion that the public space is not designed to be occupied, and that nobody can claim that much utility of fairly. So, the sidewalks and the parks and stuff are there for people to use in certain ways. They are public resources, and people who use them in ways that they're not intended to be used, namely as places to live, cause problems. They're exacting too large an impact upon the public space, and they're making, in general, life uncomfortable for people who live around there, and they're making it seem like a less safe neighborhood. They're making it seem more seedy and stuff like that. Are they people? Yes. Are they a problem? Yes. Are they failing to fulfill their basic responsibility as citizens? Yes, they are. And there's no disputing that. You might say that's not a very compassionate understanding of things. It's not compassionate or uncompassionate. It's neither, because it's not a policy prescription. It's an accurate description of the reality. A compassionate policy prescription might focus more on the fact that they're people, or a less compassionate policy prescription might focus more on the fact that they're homeless. But I made no such policy prescription of any sort. All I've said is that's a good idea. Move somewhere where it's very cold and you won't have any homeless people. Melandrix, revenge is not utterly stupid. It doesn't amount to torture so you can feel better. Revenge is what you call revenge is an equilibrium restoring reality. That there is liability, moral and otherwise. And just as it's not okay for you to destroy my car without paying for it to be repaired, even if you do it by accident, and especially if you do it on purpose, so too must you pay if you kill a loved one of mine. Not because it's going to restore the loved one, as it would with the car, but because it will restore some quality of equilibrium that is necessary for justice. Homelessness is happening no matter if we witness or know or not. It's an object until you make it subjective. I don't think that makes any sense. It's not pointless. It's absolutely not pointless. This has been happening all over my neighborhood by different people. It's usually not homeless women, though. What is this video about? Victor Beer says, well, Victor Beer, this video is about whatever you want it to be about, because what I'm doing is reading the chat out loud and responding to it. That's what it's about. Would an FI solution be therapy or trying to understand the motives behind the criminal's behaviors? That second one would be, I mean, like when I ask a question of an FI Dom, what do you do when your child comes home and he's complaining to you about getting bullied and this other kid stole his lunch and he tried to complain about the teacher, said, I don't have time for this right now, blah, blah, blah. You know what an FI Dom says in response to that? I try to tell my child to realize that bully's really got stuff going on in their own life right now. It's making it hard for them. And that's why they act like that. And you know, it's completely moronic, of course. The correct response is, I'm there at the school in the office with my kid, and I am walking out of there with someone's head on a fucking platter in no uncertain terms. You know, that's the answer. That's the correct answer. Then it's not pointless if it makes you feel better. Right. That makes me feel better. I want to see somebody suffer for this. Makes me feel better. Ha ha ha. That's good. Justice. That makes it pointful. Why have you not been to Olympia, Annette? Because I haven't been everywhere in the world. But it is wrong. What's wrong? Justice? Justice is not wrong, Melandrix. Agree if you apply it to destructive instead of constructive. Eric and Kim are not getting a puppy. I don't drive or get out much. I have agoraphobia. Stay away from Olympia then. It's full of nothing but wide open spaces. I believe there are certain instances in which revenge is justified. Being angry about them being there is pointless, though. Being angry about what being where? Flow State, you better shut the fuck up with that puppy shit. So should they build more homes and shelters for the homeless? Who's they? Who would you like which they would you like to do that? We should make special camps for them. I have a solution in mind, by the way, and I will tell it to you in a second. Make camps for them and force them to work. That usually works. That does not usually work. And they are making tiny homes to help addicts. They need to do more of that. Okay, well, who's they again? I'd say like something needs to be done to help the core of it. You know, just being like, get out of here won't reduce the number of homeless people. Like a concentration camp? That's what I had in mind. Well, a lot of addicts that don't want help won't use the shelters, 10 cities, or enroll in programs for tiny homes. How dare you make that assertion, Alice Marie? How would a typical day of an FINE or FISE person look like? Sopping wet. Their tenders constantly dangled into dampness. Being in ministry, I've interacted with and helped many homeless people. A high percentage will refuse help, refuse lodging, etc. A good portion are addicted to the substances and spend all their money on that. I'm nothing like that, says Hero Lamb. Okay. Where am I? I got lost now. FINE, watching documentaries people. Right, yeah, there you go. That's a great answer, Walter Wiseman. They say here in Olympia, the tiny houses are for homeless, but they're putting it out of town country. That's the word on the streets. I go there. That's not what an FI Dom would say. You mean with the bullied thing? Well, that's what an INFP would say. Here they have a community for homeless women, and now drug dealers hang out on the streets near the place. Yeah, right, of course. There are consequences to every action. It's the world we live in. What good does it do to let a murderer around kill a few more people? The point is, the murderer deserves to go to jail, even if we could guarantee that he's not going to kill anybody else. And that's the point I want to stress. Flow State, Eric is not getting a fucking puppy. We just got a new puppy. They're the best. Well, good for you. Flow State? Brittany, do not listen to Flow State. Alice Marie, I didn't know you were an FI Dom. I'm not sure Sheila is an FI Dom. Um, Sheila's a bowl full of applesauce inside a bowl full of cottage cheese. Not very definitive and solid. I'm not even reading any more shit about puppies. Okay, I'm just not even going to read it. Now, I want to answer the question of earlier that I said I was going to. What would I say I was going to do with? Oh, yeah, homeless people. So here's my solution. The thing is this. As it currently stands, it is unconstitutional for police to compel a homeless person to leave a public area unless that police officer has a municipal provided place for the homeless person to go. So that's the case law on the matter. That until and unless a city provides homeless shelters, essentially, they can't force homeless people to leave the common area. They can't punish them for loitering unless there's some place for them to go. So that's case law. Now, my solution is this. We find a central location someplace in the continental United States, and it's far away from every place else. And we build a bunch of very durable and not very many affinities or whatever, basic shit like housing kind of things, right? And maybe even have some stores there that are sort of government run. Now, in each of these places where we have homeless people, then there would be an incentive to, you could incentivize the homeless people to go to this place. And this place would be a place where it's got very limited transportation away from it. Okay, so the buses go and drop them off, and then they don't pick anybody up, right? So occasionally there'll be some means for people to leave the place. They're not going to be stuck there forever, and it's not, it'll be possible to drive there and possible to leave from. It's not going to be a camp, okay? It's a city that's more or less the nation providing all the homeless services in one spot. And saying, if you want any homeless services, you go there. And at that point, people can say, the police department can say, well, you are occupying this public space in an unacceptable fashion. We do have some place for you to go, so you have to leave. And here's a bus ticket. Now, the thing is, once out there, that place is going to be a nasty place. And it's going to be a hotbed of drugs and violence and prostitution and all that kind of shit. Fine. Keep it all there. That's where you can all stay. We will still be able to get drugs out here in regular land. We'll all be a lot happier. It'll be a simple solution, right? If you got a homeless problem in your city, your municipal budget needs to cover more bus tickets. Simple solution. The problem is that homelessness is being allowed to manifest locally from local populations instead of resulting in a growing population of homelessness in one spot, which is what we should do. Then it won't bother anybody else. It's not, if it's absolutely fixing the problem from my perspective, Melandrix, what's the problem from my perspective? Is the problem that people don't have homes? No, that's not the problem. The problem is I've got homeless people around me that beg for money and look depressing and camp in the park and shit like that. That's the problem as far as I'm concerned. They might have their own problem that's substantial. It might be bigger than my problem. I don't give a fuck. It's not my problem. It's their problem. My problem is how can I humanely get rid of them? government was supposedly cracking down, locking everybody up for drugs in the 80s, and now it's 10 times worse than it was then. Well, the thing is, because it used to not ever be about prescription drugs, right? It was always the street drugs that were the problem. But what's actually the problem, drug-wise? It's prescription drugs. So, they're focusing on the wrong thing. Okay. Drugs come in from south of the border by the tons. Drugs mostly come in domestically from other domestic locations in terms of most drugs that people do. The exception is cocaine. Cocaine comes from out of the country. But almost all the other drugs we do in the United States are born and made here. It used to be that weed came from out of the country, but not anymore. If everyone took that point of view, you might end up getting fucked over. Say some rich guy sees you as a problem. They evict you because they want a golf course. If it's their property and they're the landlord, they can evict me. If it's my property, it doesn't matter how rich they are. If they want to get it from me, they're going to need my consent. The difference between evicting me from a property that you own and trying to evict me from a property that I own and telling people they can't camp on the fucking sidewalk, if you can't tell the difference between those three things, that's the problem. How do you relate to comfort, harmony, balance, and homeostasis? At Sheila W7, are these important to the well-being of your essence? I'll answer that question too. Comfort? Yes. Harmony? No. Balance? Yeah. Homeostasis. I mean, harmony is too. All these things are important to my well-being, but they're important to everyone's well-being. That's what makes it a bad question. I like things to look nice. Most people say my home and style is very nice. If we only care about how a problem affects us, no. Society collapses if we only care how a problem affects us. No, I don't only care how the problem affects me. I'm saying that I care very much about executing the solution in a humane and legal fashion. So that means I care much more than you do about how it affects everybody. But the thing is, if we prioritize the individual people and their outcomes, their experience, rather than their rights and obligations, then society collapses. So, no, you're wrong. And probably an F I don't. Yes to all that. I'm an Enneagram 9, so harmony, balance, and peace is very important. Right now, I'm accomplishing harmony, balance, and peace by schooling Melandrix. Now, it may not be the most harmonious way to do it, but I'm still upholding all those values. How would anyone react if someone randomly came in and rearranged their home? They'd call the cops, depending on what the worldview and moral mindset of such person. True. I think you're SEI or ISFJ, Sheila. That's all SI. That's not, she didn't say anything SI. She didn't say anything SI at all. She didn't reference her experience at all. You don't know what SI is. Self-reporting that your house looks nice is not an indication of SI. It's an indication of anything. She didn't even say her house looks nice. She said, I like things to look nice in general. Most people say my home and style is very nice. And that's NIFE. That is not SI. You could say FINE, I guess, but I see it as NI, that she's established a single status to her metaphysical relationship to things looking nice. But it's definitely not SI. I used to think I had strong F5, but then I hung out with some INFPs and ENFPs and I was burned out quick by them. Johnny, well, if it looks better after they did it, I would like it. But if I thought my design was better, I would change it back. Would you wonder why people randomly came into your house and rearranged your furniture while you were gone? That would be my primary concern. ENFPs are insane, no offense. They're a little insane. ESFPs are just a little insane. And I mean, so are all the action types, kind of. Some people say I'm crazy too, you know. Good morning, Duke Tires. Who here thinks I'm crazy? Raise a hands. Show of hands. Sheila seems both FE and FI to me, so F functions second, sixth. Other than that, not sure yet. Well, if it's F function second, sixth, she seems introvert to me, so that'd be FE and 2, which she's not an SI dom. She just isn't. The Trail of Homeless Tears. Maybe some Native Americans should get on a boat and discover Italy. Look, I mean, the point is this. There is no right to use the public space beyond the scope of its utility. For example, I can't decide to use the public roadway to have my toddler crawl down the middle of it and make all the cars wait as I'm teaching my toddler to crawl in the middle of a busy street. Nobody disputes that. Who in the world would dispute that? That it's not an acceptable use of the public space. So we know that there are limits to the extent to which any individual's rights to access the public space. There's a place where that ends, right? And there's no disputing that homeless people exceed the limits of that. By pointing to the fact that they have problems, you are infantilizing them and denying them both the rights and responsibilities due to all citizens. It's offensive. Stop treating them like children. They're individual human beings with individual human beings' responsibilities. Whether they can or can't or whatever, I'm not interested in solving their problems. I'm interested in solving the problem of their impact upon society. They're responsible for solving their problems. That's how life works. Otherwise, society does collapse. If you want to be responsible for their problems, wow. Oh, Sheila, okay, fine, cool. Now we'll set up an appointment. Consider me paid. FYI, that's not a good way to pay me because YouTube keeps a substantial amount of that, but that's fine. If you do want to be proactive in helping the homeless, then you need to be like Pastor Personality, engaging in it from the perspective of somebody as an exercise of their faith. And then it's consensual. You're choosing to exercise your and you're not trying to make public policy that is consistent with your So if it's this subjective shit, it's your own reasons why you think it should be blah, 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 and it's not based on a realistic analysis of the situation, then that shouldn't be advocated as public policy. That should just be, you go be a member of a church that helps homeless people. That's what to do, right? Don't make your affirmative moral indications into obligations for the state. All right, so here, that's the thing though. Why do those rights exist? How were they devised? You can't agree that a society should be the way solely because it should function, though it should. There has to be an FI metric there. Why does there have to be an FI metric there? Rights exist because everybody is compelled at some point in their life to address the question of whether or not slavery is okay. Are human beings things that can be owned? Or things that are owned? Ought they be owned? And if you have a stance on that, any stance at all, then you concede right now that rights are the metric by which we must determine things. And there's a whole lot of argumentation between what I said at the beginning and the conclusion, but it is nevertheless 100% true. So absolutely not. FI should not be included in policy decisions. Absolutely not. because it is fundamentally subjective by nature, and we have to deal with public policy in an objective fashion. And that means ignoring the interest of the individuals in order to preserve the integrity of a system, an ecosystem that allows individuals to manifest their autonomy. And that's critical. The only reason that we're all having this conversation right here is because nobody has implemented Melandrix's notions yet. If somebody did, we'd all be dead. And because we cannot run society based on people's feelings. Like, but this feels really important to me, so we'll justify a bunch of violence anyway. It's always used to justify violence. It's never framed that way, right? Let's implement these policies. Let's not talk ever or think ever about what's entailed in implementing those policies and what sort of violence we must enact against people, and all sorts of other things. There's no immunity, man. So no, rights aren't FI. Rights are TI. Rights are TI. Rights are a discursive understanding of the implicit value of a single human being in a way that's communicable. It's communicably defensible. So it's the communicable defensibility of a thing that renders it matter of public policy justified. It has to be communicably defensible. FI is the non-communicably defensible part of it. That's the thing that if we're talking, we're already away from FI. FI shouldn't have any business whatsoever in talking about public policy. It may be important to me that we respect rights, that we don't commit acts of violence against people who are not, against whom the act of violence is non-responsive. In other words, it's an initiative act of violence. We should never do that. And that's maybe I'm at FI attached to it. But the reason we should never do it has absolutely nothing to do with my feelings, no matter how strongly I feel about it. And it can't. And if it does, that invalidates it. And it's because it's a public policy matter. It's specific to that realm of thing. If you want to care about people, then leave politics to the TI users. Okay. SI is all about balance and harmony in internal states. SI has two manifestations, Johnny Two Guns, one real-time and one turn-based. In the real-time expression of it, it's about the experience of the body in the moment, okay? In the metaphysical aspect of it, which is to say keeping track of shit, it's basically organizing one's own understanding of knowledge and self in terms of organized or linear succession of events that have occurred, each of which has its own node and is remembered directly. In contrast, NI doesn't remember directly, remembers indirectly. It just takes the lesson away from the experience and doesn't remember the specifics. Now, most people, like a 4 or 5, like me, can do both, no problem. But if you're polar in either of them, you can see that polar come through. So understanding what SI is requires you to think of it as a process. If you're going to do, that's the first thing you have to do. And understand the process occurs on 2 different time frames. So SI evaluates conditions according to an immediate sense of comfort. Okay, that's a process. Good. And that is correct in terms of your body in the moment. That's one thing that SI does. SI's real-time manifestation is a sense of well-being in your own body and or comfort and or discomfort or whatever, whether you're thirsty, whether you're hungry. Okay, so that's true. But it's not with one's environment per se, but it is with one's immediate space. So to the extent that your environment is part of your ontology, like this desk is part of my SI, but and the whole immediate environment in terms of like temperature and stuff is part of my SI in the sense of how it impacts my SI, but it's still external to me. So, the majority of homeless people are either severe addicts or have substantial mental health issue. Any sane person is not going to pick that lifestyle, right? So as a consequence, we can't expect them to manage their own temporal bargaining well enough to get out of it either. We need to provide them services, but those services need to be provided in a central location away from everybody else, because otherwise we are just we're feeding the problem. Somebody's shitting in our bed. We're not saying don't let this person shit. We're not saying don't let this person near beds. We're not saying don't shit in beds. We're saying shit in beds over there. And that's fine. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. We don't care why you're shitting in the beds. It doesn't matter why you're shitting in the beds. Is it because you're a drug addict and can't help yourself? Fine. So go be a drug addict who can't help themselves over there. If you can't help yourself, you're never going to get better and you're always going to be like this, then go always be like this over there. Don't occupy my fucking sidewalk with your drug addict uselessness. I'm a drug addict. I'm not useless. Then make treatment center in the centralized location and put them in there, but make it go over there. They can make their way back. I'm not saying lock them in a fucking camp. I'm saying if we keep pumping them all in this central location where all the services are, and there's no services anywhere else, where are the homeless people going to go? Makes sense, right? Why not, instead of all these localities, all these municipalities spending all this money on homeless shelters, why not gather all that money together and say, federal government, you deal with it. Here's all that money, and now you build the federal homeless center. And that's a great solution. They don't have to go there. They're not required to. They just can't stay here on the sidewalk any longer. You get a free bus ticket there, though, if you want to take it. Here you go. Either way, get the fuck out of our town and get the fuck off of our sidewalk. Because you do have someplace to go. Here's the alternative. You have loitered. You are now guilty of loitering. If you do not leave, you will be arrested for, we would give you a ticket, but you're not going to show up to court, and you're going to get arrested, and all that kind of shit. But, or you can take this bus ticket. It's all legit. Due process, rights respected. There's no fucking camp. There's no anything except centralize all the homeless services in one place. You can see why people might think I'm an FI Dom. I have to book a session with you, aren't I? Maybe. It's possible. That's an interesting comment. What makes you think that makes you see why people think I'm an FI Dom? Because I seem to take it so seriously and importantly, or what? My daughter's school had a discussion about homelessness. One kid said it's the government's fault for not giving them enough money. I'm so sorry to hear that. People in your situation usually don't stay homeless, Alice Marie. Okay, I don't think everyone chooses the lifestyle, but life is hard sometimes. I'm not saying they choose it. Doesn't matter. Again, that's an irrelevant factor in what we're going to do about it. I just blew up my own brain with what? An inflatable, what is this called? A tire inflating thing. I blew up the toilet 2 hours ago. I'm sorry to hear that. I can see why people might think you're an FI Dom. It would be cheaper to treat homeless people's addictions and mental health issues in a center. I agree with you. Centralize it all. All right. Thank you. That's my advocacy as president, by the way. It's one of my advocacies for my running for president. That's the solution I have for homelessness. It's not the best solution. It's not a perfect solution. It doesn't address the core of the problem, quote unquote. But the core of the problem is individual people are using their autonomy poorly and are not understanding. If we want to address the core of the problem, we can additionally make public health things that say, don't do opiates. I mean, well, it's like if they just let people do street drugs, things would be a lot better. Instead, people went and sought drugs from, OxyContin to whatever, and things are a lot worse. And then there's this failure to distinguish between drugs that are actually bad and ones that aren't. Like, it's almost impossible for me to get my fucking Adderall without some sort of fight every month. And why? Because it's a controlled substance. I got to go to the doctor every 4 months, and fuck this noise. Just give me my fucking speed. That's not a problem. I mean, meth is. People have problems with meth. A lot of people have problems with meth. But they can't handle it. Most people can't handle meth. Even I can't really handle meth. It's a little too much, especially if you smoke it all the time. It's like you hit that pipe and you end up staying up a lot longer than you want, and you don't get enough sleep, and It's really, the funny thing about it is meth is basically the same thing as Adderall. More or less the same effect on you. But it's just a matter of, So Jeebus says, I'm slightly surprised by your lack of empathy towards them as a recovering alcoholic. Usually the person has to hit a personal rock bottom to make a change like you have. Okay, well, fine. I mean, so why is it better then for their rock bottom to live on the sidewalk in my town than go to Homeless Town, USA, where there are services? Why is it better for them to have a rock bottom where they're being bussed around Los Angeles County to different places trying to find services for them and bothering different places in Los Angeles County? Why is that a better bottom for them than being shipped off to Homeless Town, USA, because they're avoiding a loitering charge? I mean, I have empathy for everybody, whether they're recovering from drug addiction, whether they have drug addiction, whether they have nothing to do with drugs. I understand that people suffer and that sucks ass. What I'm saying is this notion of accepting diffuse harm as a way of avoiding concentrated harm is noble and needs to be done better. Diffuse harm is accepting that homeless people are all around to avoid concentrated harm, that is to say, violating the rights of the homeless people. That's a good thing. But we need to be practical about implementing that exact framework. We need to deal with this genuine diffuse harm of having homeless people in the community, which is a diffuse harm and brings down everybody's quality of life. We need to respond to that in a way that's humane and rights respecting. And that's why my solution is the best. How that impacts, why you say that lacks empathy, I have no notion why that would be. You consider that not empathetic. Except, I guess the idea is, well, Eric, you're seeing them as a problem for your community and then bring down the quality of your life, bring down property values, stuff like that. I do see it that way. That's not a lack of empathy. That's fucking reality. That's an accurate description of reality. And I can both not want a homeless problem around me and still understand that they're human beings who need to have their rights respected. My empathy is in my policy prescription. It's empathetic towards everyone, the members of the community who don't like the homeless problem and the homeless people themselves. It's also practical in the sense that it doesn't add any additional cost. It just redirects all the existing services towards a centralized location and solves countrywide a national homelessness solution. And it also places the responsibility on the individual homeless people. They can change their status at any time. They need to do the legwork. I had to quit drinking. It wasn't easy. I hit my own bottom, but I had to do the legwork myself. Nobody else could help me except for insofar as I went to them, sought their guidance, and followed their advice. And then I successfully quit drinking. So I have empathy for their suffering. That's why I understand things correctly. And I say, this will only be solved by them. We can only solve our problems, and let's do so humanely. I'm angry. I mean, I don't think I'm angry. I'm correct. I'm authoritative in my delivery. I'm making clear that my line of argumentation is the only one. But I guess if you consider authoritative angry, everyone's bottom and abilities are on a spectrum, I think, and each individual has to deal with that on his or her own. That's not something that we can choose to fight those battles for somebody on behalf of somebody else. All solvency in life regarding the self comes from willingness, ultimately. It all begins with willingness. if a person is not willing to rework their narratives, if they are not willing to say, all right, I'm gonna pretend I don't know anything for a second. I'm gonna listen and follow instructions. I'm not going to deliberate any further. This is the problem with most people, most of all with types that are tool using types for the deliberation functions. FI or TI, ESFPs, ENTPs, ENFPs, ESTPs, most stubborn types, in the sense that, being a TI tool user means this is what we ought to do, and these are all the specific words I'm saying, and this is why I parsed away this possible objection, that possible objection, this possible objection. These are the statuses we ought all agree on because I am right. That's TI stubbornness. Or I'm an ENTP, I'm an ENTP, I'm an ENTP, no matter what anybody says or anybody does or anybody. That's ESFP, ENFP. Capitalism is horrible, no matter what, it makes no sense at all. ESTP, basically, it's the same sort of thing as ENTP, more or less, except a little more brusque, I guess. It's common. It's not just Brittany. There's a fair number of ESFPs out there who are quite insistent that they're ENTPs, and consistently when I encounter them, and I'm like, "You're not an ENTP." They go, "You don't know me. I don't care. I am one." And I go, "Okay, nothing you can do. You can't TI them out of it, What about severe mental illness? I got no opinion about severe mental illness, frankly. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm a typologist. I'm not even a therapist. I would call Becky a therapist, at least. And she's not officially one, but what the fuck does that mean, officially a therapist or not? It doesn't even mean anything. She's more of a therapist than any therapist I've ever encountered. This live stream is homeless. Well, I'll have to find it a home. Maybe you can live at my channel after I'm done. It might be able to. We'll see. Eric's solution isn't less empathetic than currently implemented ones. When you tell them they're not ENTP, they want to fist fight you. Please believe it. I think the matter. I grew up in a nice, pleasant Catholic household where everyone was proper and strict and always had money and owned businesses, but I felt like an authority on I feel like an authority on homelessness. I think the matter is complex and not understood fully, so it requires a certain level of finesse and empathy. Their personal responsibilities was just a thought to me. What should we do about them? Well, the point is we can't really do anything about other people's responsibilities. We can't. Each individual has to take ownership of their own choices. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be sympathetic when people make poor choices. We shouldn't try to give them second chances. I'm a big believer in second chances. Being a huge trial and error person, I make lots of mistakes and I fail lots of times. I need a lot of second chances, and I need an environment that's very conducive to forgiving me for my failures and celebrating me for my successes. And so I understand, but I also recognize the fact that part of respecting another person's autonomy and their agency is giving them the dignity to own their own problem and own their own solution. Sometimes my SI memory is great and very detailed, and then other times I can't remember crap, very random. Well, that would sound something like 8th slot SI. I'm leaning towards Zengen's conclusion, but I don't know. Yeah, individuals, church groups, absolutely. I'm not opposed to charity. I give homeless people money sometimes, even though I think that that's silly because I'm just encouraging the problem. I do it anyway. I usually give them cigarettes instead. I have one homeless person in the history of my giving cigarettes to homeless people, which is for ages, I usually give them 2. I had one person refuse a cigarette, one homeless person. All the rest of them smoked. So, whatever that means. One lady's like, I don't smoke. I'm like, really? But you're standing here asking for money. You must smoke. Nope. Huh. What do you know? I mean, I'd rather give them a bottle of alcohol than food or money, because that's probably what they want, right? If they want alcohol, I'd rather just give them alcohol, or money for alcohol, I guess is fine. I'm not saying I would want to encourage them to drink, but if that's what they want, I respect their autonomy. So I'd rather give them money so that they can choose to buy food if they want, or choose to buy drugs or alcohol if they want, or not give them any money because I don't want to give them any money. If I feel like giving them money, I should give the money to a person, which means I should respect their autonomy. Oh, Donald Trump's here. You're eating from KFC? Good. I like KFC too. Sometimes a blanket if they're sleeping is winter. I have given a jacket to somebody. I felt really bad one evening. There was this young lady who was waiting out in the cold outside of Denny's and was underdressed, and I don't know what she was waiting for. And she wasn't like camping there. She was waiting for someone or something for quite a while. And Delilah and I went back and gave her some warmer things. And it's the sort of thing that when I encounter it in life, it breaks my heart, and I either do something about it or just deeply regret having noticed it. I'm too compassionate in a lot of ways, in the sense that I feel too strongly when I see things that are sad. I feel it too much, and it makes me very agitated to feel sad, and I don't like it at all. And so I just try to avoid those things as much as possible. I remember mentioning a guy you should debate sometime called Destiny. He recently made an offhand remark saying MBTI is harmful, and you should email him and ask him to debate him about MBTI. You should 100-mile media, email him for me and ask him to debate me. Say, I'm totally down. That would be really very much appreciated by me if you were to do that. I'm probably not going to, because I'm bad at that stuff, or because I'm childishly self-indulgent. I don't know why, but I probably won't. I want to. When I do remember, everything is very visual. I see myself like in a dream, like I'm watching myself. Smoking cigarettes heightens. Somebody says do I quit smoking? Let's see. Right. Every homeless is a unique, singular problem. No way to solve that in mass scale. Exactly. And we shouldn't, and no reason to try to take ownership of it. Would I quit smoking ever? I can't find that question anymore. But the answer is, I'm not looking to quit smoking now. I might eventually quit smoking cigarettes. I'm not going to quit smoking weed, that's for sure. I would love to debate Destiny. Or Density. Oh, Density, is that what it is? Or Destiny? Am I reading that wrong every time you say that? Oh, Destiny. No. Density is a better name than Destiny. I'm not telling them that, Jeebus. I'm letting them tell themselves whatever they want to tell themselves. What I'm saying is, as president, I've got a solution that's better than the status quo. And that's what I can try to make happen. I can't figure out how each of those people needs to solve their problems. I can say that I understand how difficult it might be and how people might need help. And I certainly want to encourage people to get the help they need. And I want people to, remake their lives from where it's collapsed down to, but not on my sidewalk. If you're on my sidewalk, you're not doing that. How did your TI get perceived over time? You got older. How did your TI got perceived over the time you got older? Can you rephrase that question? I'm not quite sure what you mean. The people coming to my door are not choosing that life. They're the ultimate victims of sometimes generations worth of trauma. Well, I know that. But I'm not trying to say they're choosing it. Nor am I saying that they ought to be blamed for it or anything. I'm just saying there's human poop on the sidewalk here. That's disturbing me. My neighborhood is bad if people are pooping on my sidewalk. I don't like that. I went to go to the weed store the other day in Pomona where there's a lot of homeless people. And as I walked to the door, I was like, oh, I had to walk around a big fucking pile of human turd outside the weed store door. It's like, not okay. If you're pooping on my sidewalk, then, fuck you. I don't care about your drug problem. I don't care about whatever. It doesn't mean I don't respect the realities or life stuff for you or whatever. But that's not my problem. And nobody should think it's their problem. Except for that person. And it's like if you're in a position to help and you know that person and or you're in AA or something, they come. That's what those organizations are for. That's what churches are for. That's what lots of things are for. Lots of ways people can reach out and get help from other people. Trying to centralize a solution with government oversight is a nightmare. So let's make that cancer as isolated from the rest of the country as possible. Human poop and truly in every alleyway in San Diego. How fucking horrible is that? I mean, I think there's more than a hint of understanding or compassion to a shitty situation. My whole point is if we're focusing on that aspect of things, then we shouldn't be talking about public policy. We should be talking about our duty as members of a faith like Christianity or, Buddhism or whatever. I don't know. I only think of there being really one faith that the people have. There's Christianity, and then there's rejection of faith entirely, which is like Eastern shit, which says it's all spiritualist stuff or whatever. And then there's what you might generally call the utilitarian manifestation of Christianity, which is Islam. And obviously, it's not intended to be utilitarian. Faith shouldn't be utilitarian in that fashion. It shouldn't justify things with utilities. That's what distinguishes it from reason. Okay. So, speaking of poop, though, when I said sometime back that I had to poop pretty soon, I wasn't lying, and it's been moving its way down slowly in my intestines as it begins gently licking the inside lip of my colon, tempting it to open a little wider. And That's when I have to end this live stream, go inside and poop. And I'm going to poop not on the sidewalk. I'm going to poop in the toilet. I'm going to, a little bit of turtle head going on here. I'm going to just flush it right down. And the reason is because I live inside of a house. And it's very tragic that some people don't. But that doesn't mean they can poop on my sidewalk. Thank you for watching, everybody. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. Yeah, all right, Sheila. I'll email you later today or later this morning after I poop.